Hi and welcome. Today we are going to be talking about what is driving like in Panama, because honestly it's a question that I get quite often. So I'm originally from Nebraska, where there's lots of space and lots of parking. For me, the transition, however many years ago it was, a decade ago, it took a little while, but to be honest with you, I'm going to give you some of the pros and cons of it. Driving in Panama is the same side of the road as what you would in North America. So you're driving on the right hand of the road. One thing you cannot do here is you cannot take a left on a red light. In the US, I mean, you can pull out, take a left on the red light. That doesn't exist here in Panama. Panamanians are some very, very, very nice people, very kind. They get a little bit more aggressive when you put them behind a wheel, to be honest with you. But in terms of how fast people are driving, the overall velocity is much slower here because the roads aren't as big. So I'm used to US highways. I mean, I go and visit family now in Florida, and like you have these massive, massive highways where people go really fast. There are no roads like that here. We have the Pan American Highway, which would be the closest or the largest road that we have. It expands up to 8 lanes. But here in Panama City, most everything is 2 lanes. So crashes happen like anywhere, but it's at a slower velocity typically. Like people get rear-ended. So I would not say that you see more crashes here in Panama. I think the main part is coming from North America, you usually expect the other person to drive correctly, right? To do the right thing. Here in Panama, most everyone that's driven here for enough time, you drive defensively. So you expect the other guy to do something dumb, and he expects you to do something dumb. So everyone's defensive and everyone's ready for the dumbness. Yeah. That is what I've seen in my 10 years here. I feel very comfortable driving now. You do have to be eyes on the road. You do have to be very tuned into what you're doing. But honestly, the driving here, there's a flow. And once you get used to that flow, is very, very doable. Another big piece of it is who is the driver on the other side. So your normal everyday person is an okay driver, but there's taxis. There's a lot of taxis here on the roads. And to be honest, the only fights I ever get to on the road will be with a taxi. The taxis, I mean, they just merge in. There's no space. They make space. The lines are a suggestion. No one really understands one of my pet peeves. No one really understands how to use a roundabout. So a roundabout, typically, I mean, you defer to the person that's already in the roundabout, but here it's a free-for-all, to be honest, in a roundabout. So the laws of the road, or the rules of the road, here are more of a suggestion than anything else. So here, driving, for example, texting on your phone or talking on your phone, anything that involves your hands and your phone is also illegal. But I mean, as everywhere else, people do it. I've been at a red light and was texting and got a ticket. And I think the ticket was around $85, which I've talked to Canadians before, I've talked to Americans before, and they can get up into the $1,000 ticket range. You still have the same infractions here. You can't be on your phone and drive. You're not supposed to speed, reckless driving, those types of things. But the ticket prices are usually slightly less, so people still do it. And something else coming from the US that is US or Canada that's very different, you see this a little bit in Europe depending on where you're at, is motorcycles. I mean, they don't drive in line with a normal car. They just pass, they weave. So motorcycles here will weave, so you have to be super careful when you're switching lanes, if you're merging, if you're gonna take a left somewhere, because a motorcycle will try and shoot the gap and get past you. So, my two least favorite things here about driving will be the taxis and the motorcycles. Also, driving on even the highway, for example, if there's 2 lanes in the US or Canada, you pass on the left, right? Here, that's the intention, but people pass on the left, right, and middle. You just pass. People pass wherever you possibly can, or like that motorcyclist, they shoot the gap. And I joke about this, but it's the truth. If you put on your hazard lights, there's no rules. There's no rules. You can do anything with your hazard lights on. I've seen people back off of an on-ramp with their hazard lights on. So here, it's kind of a joke, but kind of serious. If you have your hazard lights on, rules do not apply. So something that might be unusual for North Americans coming would be, I mean, there's a decent amount of police presence in Panama City, and sometimes, the majority of the time, they'll just drive around with lights on. It doesn't mean that they're pulling you over unless they turn on their siren. When the siren goes on, they're pulling someone over. But sometimes they just drive around with their lights on. I'm not sure why. And then also, especially around, let's say, holidays, you'll see checkpoints in Panama. So they'll have like random checkpoints where everyone has to go through the checkpoint line. You have to take out your driver's license, and they just kind of do like routine checks. So I hope you have enjoyed this ride along today. If you've enjoyed these videos, please be sure to subscribe and like. There's also in the description box below, you can subscribe to my Insider's Guide list, and we're going to put out a lot more information like this. So talk to you soon.